Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby! Yeah. Imagine a world where there's only one thing standing between you and the evilness of DJ gear. And that one thing is Ben Stowe! Oh,
Where did you get the sound effects?
Wait a second. There we go. I had to make sure I get the last one in there. It's Tuesday night with Ben Stowe, and here we are to celebrate another night of coming together.
Yay!
Yeah, I was waiting for the crowd to cheer for us, and they didn't clap either. So,
Like slow clap.
yeah, it's this. Ironically, I could see Alan doing that.
Leading the charge.
Yeah, he he's probably going to record himself doing that and then sending it to us right in the middle of the show. So Ben, tonight, let's dig into some wireless audio stuff. There's some new things out there. There's a lot of confusion out there when it comes to running audio wirelessly. So let's kind of dig into that whole world if you can, or if we can.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that principally speaking, when we talk about wireless audio, we're talking about wireless satellite or delay speakers, right? That, we've talked about wireless mics and things, and this is really kind of the same sort of thing, just kind of in reverse. A couple of key differences though, when we want to make speakers wireless, we want to have a full bandwidth signal. We want the whole, frequency of sound, right? Realistically, let's say 40 hertz to 15 kilohertz or something, not 20 to 20, but we want a good full bandwidth, not just the vocal range.
Mm-hmm.
And, we want to be able to maybe send this with a stereo image or not, left or right, that sort of thing. And anyway, we've talked about this a few other times, and there's some purpose-built things for it. And I thought, this would be good to just kind of take a look at what's out there and what's new, and we'll kind of talk about that. So
Yeah.
I have a collection of things scattered around me here.
Nice. Well, I want to, before we get into actually looking at some of the pieces, let's talk about when it comes to our speakers. I mean, in the last year, a big direction that many of these companies are going is Bluetooth is becoming more common on speakers. And you and I, when we've done this show, and we've done this version of a show a couple of times, for those of you who haven't caught those in the past, Bluetooth has always been an area in which we have been kind of, use at your own, that kind of a thing. Has Bluetooth technology changed in the last year and a half, where maybe our opinions are going to change with it?
I think there's a couple questions within that question. Bluetooth continues to mature, and certainly there are better iterations of Bluetooth that have come out, and they're becoming more adopted within the devices, both the sending and the receiving devices. So Bluetooth has definitely gotten better. I will use it for certain things, but at shorter ranges and not mission critical.
Okay.
It still remains somewhat vulnerable, I think. It operates in 2.4 gigahertz, which is occupied also by Wi-Fi and wireless DMX and lots of other things. And it's not intended as a professional audio transport, really.
So when you're talking mission critical, give me an example of where you would find it acceptable in your situation, in your opinion. So for those of you out there, if you don't agree, that's okay. You don't have to agree with Ben all the time. Really, you should, unless it's his.
Well, no, these things are opinions.
Yeah.
There are definitely things that I say that are facts, and you can disagree, but you're wrong. But this isn't one of those things. This is an opinion. I would say non-critical listening applications, maybe walk-in music, for example, if I've got people that are walking into a show and this is just some background music they're walking in, and my phone or device is mere feet from the receiving antenna, that's going to be pretty reliable. And if it drops out, the world doesn't stop. The show doesn't stop, right? So I would say that's for somebody else to decide what is critical.
Sure.
If the music stops, what happens?
Mm-hmm.
And the music stopping with Bluetooth is always, always possible.
It is, yes. Yeah,
So
even
I think it's,
even testing some of the ability to jump from speaker to speaker. has some functionality, and you can see where but it isn't a perfect science yet. As we're moving speakers from one spot to another, all of a sudden you can have these little audio anomalies that happen.
Yeah, and I don't find that it has the range typically to do what we're trying to do usually when we want wireless sound. We did that because we couldn't get a wire there conveniently or practically or at all. So it's usually more than a few feet away. It's sometimes hundreds of feet away. Sometimes it's on a different floor of a building or things like that. And that's where I tend to continue to favor the higher power FM radio. And now you're saying FM radio. Okay, hold on. What I mean by that is like an analog wireless system is FM. And in this case, particularly, I like the in-ear monitoring systems. And I think the reasons that I like an in-ear monitoring system, and of course we talked in previous shows, I still continue to love this one, the Sennheiser.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you another one that I love maybe just a little more now. And I know people would say, oh my gosh. Well, first of all, it's the inevitable march of technology. And just because I loved it a year ago doesn't mean I can't love something more right now. I think that would be disingenuous and unfair to our viewers if I didn't keep up with the time, so to speak, right?
Certainly.
Now, before I get into all that, let me just say, if you own a Sennheiser system, and I just said I'm going to tell you about one I like better now, I wouldn't run and get rid of the Sennheiser system. I own dozens of them, and I'm not getting rid of them.
Right.
But I have to be honest and say, well, I think something better has hit the market. That being said, why do I like an in-ear monitoring system? Well, let's take a look at the back of one that I've got out here. And there's a couple things we're going to see. One is it has stereo balanced line level inputs. So just like our mixer's output, we have balanced stereo line level inputs. And that is unique amongst most wireless systems. Some people would say, well, I like to use a wireless mic for it, and that's totally okay. However, that is expecting a mono mic level unbalanced signal, none of which is basically what your mixer is putting out. That doesn't mean it can't be used. It can be used with great success. And there are certainly some times when that might be the thing. Rachel Lynch recently did a video where she's using camera mic systems, which is just a pack on each end because it's battery powered, both transmit and receive.
Yes.
So engineering is always a series of compromises. And in some cases you say, well, that carries the day. That's what I'm looking for. And that's okay. But to reiterate, what I like a lot about in-ear monitoring systems is, first of all, the input is a stereo balanced line level input. Second of all, it's designed to carry this stereo signal at full bandwidth. Ultimately, these things are designed for musicians, for the monitors they wear in their ears. And so the sound quality and the reliability is critically important to their use. Nothing is really more important to a musician than their ears and their ability to hear what's going on. So,
Certainly.
Yeah, so that's why I like these systems a lot. And we've kind of adapted them slightly for use, with wireless speakers. It's actually very simple, and we'll go through a couple other options here, and then I'll explain why. But, simple process. We have our, as you can see right here, it says stereo receiver. And then we make our cables.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Got quality NLFX cable.
Look at that. Look at that. Platinum series. Woo!
Yep, because you need the best. So anyway, we make this cable that simply plugs into the pack. Nice firm connection, and into your speaker, and you're done. Now there are lots of IEM systems on the market, in-ear monitor systems. The Sennheiser EW IEM, which I have talked about for years and love. Great option. One of people's major concerns with it, those who have the concerns, is it's pricey. And so I think we can talk about kind of a good, better, best type scenario here.
Sure.
Sennheiser does have their XS IEM system, which is less expensive, and of course in stock at NLFX.
Now, are they using a different? You mentioned we've talked Bluetooth, we've talked 2.4 gigahertz. You've already been throwing FM out there, so we've talking a variety of different broadcast spectrum, whatever, however you would say that. Is that using something different than the G4 system? I'm
glad you brought that up, John. Thank you for helping keep me on track here. The G4 system, when we say G4, we could talk either mics or IEMs. Both of them are operating in what we would call the lower UHF spectrum. Both of them are operating within a band, A1 or G band in the Sennheiser realm, between 470 and 608. With the XS IEM, the band is not as big. It just doesn't have as much tunable range as the EW. So just kind of a step down. It doesn't have an automatic scan feature. When you don't pay as much, you don't get as much, right?
Certainly.
But all of these that I'm going to talk about are operating in what we would call that lower UHF, which is 470 to 608. And basically it remains the white space between TV. One of the bad things about UHF is the good thing about UHF. It's why the cellular companies wanted 600 and 700 megahertz, and that is because you can send that signal a long ways. So that's one of the reasons I like it. Is it's a really good, robust signal. You have kind of this Goldilocks zone of wavelengths that are adequate for carrying really good quality audio, but also have good penetration through walls and things. Now, how much penetration? That's maybe something we get into a little bit here in the conversation. But not quite as much as a radio station that is blasting at 100,000 watts, because we're dealing in the realm of milliwatts. So then of course there are purpose-built systems. This is the Alto Stealth Pro. Alto has their Stealth Gen 1, and now they have a Stealth Gen 2, the MK2, and then this is their Stealth Pro. And of course there are advantages of the Pro over the MK1, and for people who are working with smaller budgets, those things are good options.
Yes.
Here again, though, it's one of those things where the more you spend, well, almost the more you spend, the more you get. The exception, I think, is actually this new system that I'm really excited about. And it's the one we just saw the back of, and we saw the pack for. It's a recent release from Audio-Technica, who's been an industry, mic leader, wireless leader for years and years and years. I'm told that Billy Joel is using this system. So you'd say, well, okay, what makes you like this system better than the Sennheiser? Well, because there are no frequency bands. This thing tunes all the way from 470 to 608. So you really don't have to worry about it. You've got the entire TV spectrum available to you, which is mind-numbing. That's very pro level. I mean, that's like Shure Axient wireless pro level tunability. Instead of 42 megahertz, we've got 130 some megahertz. That's unbelievable. You're not going to ever not find open channels. It's just, unreal. That's only one of the things, I guess, as they say. But wait, there's more, right? So check this out. If I go to this front panel, I don't know how well you can see.
Yeah, I can see it really well.
All right, I'm gonna have to try to do this.
Yeah, those will be tougher to see. So you have to talk us through those. Yeah,
I can't see what I'm doing. All right, so anyway, this is the full scan data here.
Yeah.
And show that there.
Yep.
What we can see is this is a spectrum analyzer, just like it's just going through the whole 130 some megahertz here. Just like if I were to use an actual spectrum analyzer. So, if I were to take this one, which doesn't have any antennas on it, but, so we're not going to see anything really exciting. But, same sort of thing is showing up on this IEM system now. It's sort of like a free bonus. Like, hey, we just gave you a $200, $300 tool for free. Awesome. So what do you care? You'd say, well, I never really thought I wanted a spectrum analyzer. That's just you, Ben. You're a weird nerd, which is true. But,
that's what the chat room is, but I'm just, just reading.
It is what it is.
Messenger here.
So you would say, why do I need a spectrum analyzer if this thing has a scan function, which it obviously does? So here's the reason, I think. It's really nice to see what's out there. This can scan, and maybe your mics can scan, and those other things can scan, but this gives you a visual picture of exactly what's happening in the environment. Why am I having dropouts? Well, it turns out I'm just a little bit more powerful and some interference, and every now and then I lose that fight. And if I were to move, my life would be much better. I could move frequencies, and this is going to show you where there are open spaces. Another really cool feature about this, and I think Audio-Technica has a really good app. I will say, honestly, will say I really like their app, and this has Ethernet on board. So you can connect to a Mac or a PC and use their app and do some cool frequency analysis and stuff. But even if you don't want to do any of the frequency analysis stuff, you've got that incredibly wide tunable range of 470 to 608. You have 50 milliwatts of transmit power at stereo balanced audio. You've got this pretty awesome, reliable system. It comes with some actually really quite decent in-ear monitors. Oop.
And they bounce.
Well, and the good news is if you break them, they're replaceable.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, if you're buying a wireless speaker system, you'd say, what am I going to do with these? I don't know. Stick them in your backpack. Use them on a flight. I don't know. Whatever but it's a free set of headphones. Re-gift them by somebody. I don't know. You'll figure something out. And here's the part where I contradict what I said earlier. It actually comes in at a slightly lower price point than the Sennheiser. I know. So if I was a good salesman, which I'm not at all a salesman, so I'm not good at it at all, but if I was a good salesman, I'd probably want to sell you the more expensive unit. But I feel like I have to say this thing costs less, does more, and it is impressing the heck out of me right now. Oh, and it's in stock too, which is
there is that. That's a positive.
Pretty hard to say about anything these days. We're catching up. But anyway, I think so. Fundamentally, whether we're talking about a Sennheiser IEM, an Audio-Technica IEM, or a Shure IEM, they're all going to do pretty much the same thing. They're all going to, they're designed to send audio to in-ear monitors for musicians. We're using that and adapting that to send wireless audio very reliably over long distances. And I think this is my new favorite one. Of course, a couple other quick things to mention about it here, and we've got lots of time left, I see. So,
well, I've got lots of questions.
Oh, all right. Well, it uses a standard BNC connection, comes with a quarter wave. Big fan of bigger antennas. Upgrade to like a half wave, and you can just now we've got our range is going to go up substantially, or we can certainly go to a fin, an LPA, a helical, any other antenna, anything that you do there is going to help improve that range, especially if you need to go really long distances or through walls or through floors. And there's no guarantees it's going to work, but you're going to give yourself a much better chance of making that work.
So is that antenna a different antenna if you replace it with the one you were showing us there, the half wave? Is that a different one than you would have on a receiving unit for your handheld microphones?
No, not at all. Basically, it's fundamentally the same thing, and sort of kind of simplify it by saying an antenna is a wire of a certain length, and the length dictates the frequency. And we'll note that this one is tuned to I think this is
470 something, yeah.
So this wouldn't be the right antenna for that unit if I was actually going to use it. But when I was grabbing my props tonight, I didn't really care. So whereas this antenna, obviously from AT, is the appropriate one for a quarter wave. And there are some key differences between quarter waves and half waves, by the way. Quarter waves are a monopole, which means they need to share the ground plane of the receiver if we're using it on a receiving unit, whereas half waves are a dipole and do not. So we can mount these remotely. Then, of course, we can get into things like LPA fins, directional paddles, yada, yada, yada. But in that sense, the antennas are the same.
So does a single antenna, is it transmitting a stereo signal to those packs then?
Absolutely.
And that one antenna compared to two doesn't matter when it comes to the wireless capability?
No. Typically, we see two antennas on a mic because we have what's called a diversity system, whether it's antenna diversity or true diversity or some other type of diversity, receiving system. On the transmit side, we don't. We don't need that. We're not transmitting two times. In fact, we could probably create some problems if we did. So one antenna, think about, this is the same technology as TV. When it was analog TV, it was carrying audio, chroma, and luma, including stereo audio. This is basically the same technology as an FM radio station, which is transmitting a stereo, right? So we can transmit that stereo signal from one antenna with no problem at all. In fact, here's what's really wild and weird is using an antenna combiner system, we can receive multiple different frequencies from a single pair of antennas for our wireless mics. We can also transmit multiple different frequencies if we had multiple IEM systems. So
on the same.
Correct.
Same fin.
if we have a band that's touring, for example, and they've got lots of IEMs, they don't have to have lots of antennas.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Well, that's why we do the show, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Wow, I learned something.
Hopefully somebody else is saying the same thing.
Yeah. So you mentioned diversity, true diversity. Now that then, that is more on the receiving end. So in our case of our in-ear monitors and those little packs are receivers, does that diversity, true diversity, does that matter, or does that come into play at all when you're dealing with in-ear monitors?
So it depends on the pack, but you might say, well, this pack only has one antenna. Speaking of which, another little plug for AT here.
It's replaceable.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Holy buckets. You break an antenna, no problem. Easy to just put a replacement on. Keep spares in your kit, even if you're really accident prone or something. Some receiving packs also make an antenna out of the headphone cable or the lav mic cable or whatever, or the output cable on a receiver body pack that way. So that's sometimes how they will do that to achieve back some of that diversity on a pack receiver. Antenna orientation is really important, and that's why we often see for bands on stage, we'll often see a helical antenna as opposed to a stick antenna being used to transmit. And we can get into the polarization of radio waves and the 90-degree, all that yada yada whatever. But anyway, hopefully that answered the true diversity question. Now I'm trying to stay out of the weeds here a little bit. I feel myself getting pulled into the weeds. I'm like, go to the weeds. Go to this is my golf game. Go to the weeds.
Let me go and show you some pictures now. This will be great. This will be great.
I'm tempted. I always am. No PowerPoints tonight, though. No PowerPoints.
But you've had props. It's been show and tell. So look at these.
Actual, legit, like physical, tangible, real things stuff that I can show you.
Yeah, real stuff that does exist. Wow.
Way more fun. Yeah, way more fun.
So the pack that you showed in your video that you did talking about these units had 2, I believe, in-ear monitors in that little kit. Is that all you can use when it comes to those systems, or how many packs can you handle?
Basically, it's an infinite number.
Okay.
It's, again, think about FM radio station and how many cars are on the road tuning it in.
4, 5 now, and that's about it. I mean, dude,
in Bemidji, yeah.
It's like everyone's like streaming something. So.
Well, and okay.
Back in the day when we were younger,
nuances of satellite radio, but
when there was
there's really no limit. You're not going to reach that limit. It's you're not going to ever have a problem adding too many packs. You can simply add more packs tuned to that same frequency and just tune it right in.
Okay. Situation. We have our nice, pretty antenna. We put a bigger antenna because we want to have a little more range.
Yep,
we have an in-ear monitor fairly close and on a speaker. And then we have one almost to the extreme end of our range. Are we going to have some latency between those two just because of the distance, do you think?
I'm going to answer the question 2 different ways. Yes, but not because of the way you think. I'm going to try.
Because there's a hill, and the hill did it.
Yeah, you have to go uphill both ways.
Yeah, exactly. Hill. Sound doesn't go up hills.
All right, let's see if I can.
PowerPoint time. Whiteboard. Whiteboard.
Did you hide the whiteboard? I can't find it.
It should be there. Or maybe I gotta. Let's just.
He took away my whiteboard, folks.
Man, oh man.
He took away my whiteboard.
Let's see. If I do that, does that make it pop up?
Oh, yay! Maybe. No, other things popped up. Who can start a collaboration? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What? You still no whiteboard. You took my whiteboard away.
No, it said right here. Who can do the whiteboard?
Well, I can share, but I don't have a whiteboard.
Maybe if you do the share thing, is that popping up? Because this is a newer version of.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep.
There it is. That's your whiteboard.
You see my whiteboard? Okay.
I do. I see your pencil and your pointer.
Let's see. This looks like a speaker, right?
Oh yes, that's the new pink line that's going to be coming out. I hear they're going to have like a lot of really cool noise. Pink noise.
All right, and then here's my other speaker. So we'll have gray speaker or my pink speaker, I guess.
Yes.
If people thought we spent a lot of time preparing these shows, they now know better.
Oh, they heard the intro with the incredible amount of production of that. Oh, incredible.
So let's just say for easy math, because I just don't want to do math today.
Yes.
That let's just say these are 100 feet apart. Okay.
Okay. They're 100 feet apart. I said it.
Yep. So we need a person.
Oh yeah, let's make a person. Stick person.
Dun, 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 stick person. Stick person. Look, it's me in high school.
You weren't that. Yeah, there you go. You weren't that tall. I mean, come on.
Hey, don't judge me. Come on, whiteboard. I need legs.
And those are probably still accurate.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
They have leg day at the gym. You could just try it out sometime. I'm just saying.
Don't make fun of me. I was in a terrible accident as a kid, and my legs were amputated, and they got legs from a chicken. So
well,
it's all we could afford. Was
all we could afford back on the farm, man.
That's right. Poor chicken got the worst end of that deal. I'll tell you
exactly.
What, so. No, okay, just kidding. These are unfortunately my natural chicken legs. So.
So there is
actually. So we're getting new shirts made for all of the our stagehands and our tech crew, our road crew for shows, and we're actually getting shirts that say "Every day is leg day." Because if you haven't loaded a couple semi trailers, you just don't know. All right, so we need another line here. And
for those of you who've asked some questions in the chat, I'll get to those. I see a couple from Facebook there, and we'll get to those after we get done with this part. Because let's face it, you all are wanting to see the incredible whiteboard skills of Ben Stowe.
Hey, I gotta somehow fill another 15 minutes here.
Wait a second. Gotta do this right, because you all want to see the incredible skills on the whiteboard of Ben Stowe.
Da-da-da-da.
Also, my chicken arms. Anyway, so let's break this down now that I spent all this time drawing it.
Yeah.
So the distance from this speaker to Chicken Man here is 125 feet. The distance from this speaker to this man, this sticking figure. Sticking figure.
We better be careful there. That could get ugly. He'd go directly.
I just said, I'm going to get in trouble now.
Yeah,
pretty soon.
This.
On my leg. Here we go. All right, there we go. Anyway, we'll call that that's head height, listening height.
There we go.
So that's 25 feet. All right. So here's the takeaway. Will there be a difference between the speakers from the radio signal? No, because radio waves travel at the speed of light. So whether you want that in feet per second, meters per second, or miles per second, it doesn't matter. It's really fast and it's basically imperceptible. Okay.
Sure.
So we're not going to have a latency, as you said, not a signal latency from the radio wave, not a signal latency from the length of the cable. Those are going to be imperceptible time differences.
Sure.
However, sound travels very slow. At let's call it, that's not what we're going to call it. It is 0.89 milliseconds a foot. Now that does change with temperature and humidity, but for today's purposes, that's close enough. We could say 0.9, but I'm kind of a stickler, so 0.89. So that means that this is, let's see if I can do this. Well, let me select this text box again. No, of course not. All right. Well, let's get some red text then. This is going to be, so we got 100 feet. Come on, cursor.
It's not wanting to work.
Oh, gosh. Come on, cursor. There we go. 89 milliseconds. And so let's say this one I have to do the math. Okay. And then, of course, 25. All right. I guess I could have done these two and added that one, huh? That would have been smarter.
You could have done that too,
no.
but this was much more fun when you were pulling out and you were like,
Nothing
okay,
like doing this on a video and like
6
thousands of people are
divided
going to
by
watch and
3
analyze you.
and
What a moron.
multiply times the inverse of the quotient when I divided by the square root of, oh yeah, there it's 22.
Hey, I had a really, really long day.
Yeah.
So my brain is, and tomorrow's going to be worse.
But yet your artistic skills are still up to par. I'm just saying. Look at that.
Yeah, man, when you got it, you got it.
I mean, you just can't lose that kind of skill. It just is there.
I made an error on that, though. It's not 22.25 feet. It's milliseconds. All right. So anyway, the point is that I'm going to hear this 89 millisecond difference between these sound sources, which is going to be really substantial. Anything more than 7 milliseconds is really perceptible. So that's going to be really problematic. I call it the state fair effect, where you're going to hear two sounds, from two different paging horns at a distance apart. And there's a loss of intelligibility because the sounds are arriving twice to you. Mm-hmm. So typically we would call my gray speaker here a delay speaker. And what we would do is we would delay this. Let me think how I'm going to write this now. We would delay it by...
It doesn't want to be.
All right, we're going to just leave it like that.
Yeah.
We're going to delay it by 89 milliseconds so that effectively we have moved it back in time to where this one is. So that this one basically waits until the sound from this one
gets there.
And then those two sounds will go to the listener together. So that was a really long, convoluted, and complicated way, I think, of saying you won't have latency from a cable or a radio wave, but speed of sound is very slow. That's why you can time lightning with the thunder, because we see the flash and then we have to wait to hear the sound. It travels much slower, and we can time that out. These are fairly known things, right? So what we would do here is delay the closest speaker. In other words, it's the opposite of what people think. They often think, well, I'm going to delay problem from the furthest speaker. Yes, but not because of why you think. It's actually going to get there first. So we would delay that to wait. Now, the question that might be burning through some people's minds is, how do I do that? Well, there's a couple different ways. Before it goes into the IEM, you can use a DSP, a digital signal processor, to insert a delay, either from a digital console or an outboard DSP or some other way. You can do that. Or many of these powered speakers now have delay built in. So we would just go over to this speaker. Not that. We go over to this speaker and punch in 89 millisecond delay, which basically tells this speaker to wait till the sound from the other speaker gets there. And what's even better is if you don't want to memorize 0.89 milliseconds a foot, I don't know why I did.
Yeah, I would think that everybody would just know that. Didn't they teach that in school? What, were they absent that day?
That's what I'm saying, right? You should know the speed of sound in at least 3 different, or speed of light in at least 3 different factors too. But anyway, just in case you don't, a lot of these speakers now have on the menu, you can just go right to the menu and you can put in meters or feet, whatever you prefer. And if you want the calculations, 3.28 feet per meter, but you can just go in there and say, I prefer imperial units. I'm just going to put in feet, and I measured it off. And honestly, close will help a lot. Perfect is best, but the closer you get, the more it's going to sound cohesive.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. Thanks for watching that, viewers. I feel like that was tough.
No, that was good. That was good. A couple of
put you through a lot there. I'm sorry.
Let's hit a couple of our questions. Sean was asking about replacing antennas on different systems, specifically a Shure unit. Are there replacements where you can get a half-wave antenna for most wireless microphone systems?
In almost every case.
Okay.
There are some exceptions. You mentioned Shure. I don't know which Sean. Do you know which Sean?
Sean Darden.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks for watching, Sean. Appreciate you. So in some cases, you mentioned Shure, like their BLX series don't have external antennas. And a lot of people say, my BLX has bad range and I want to get an antenna for it. Yeah, well, I bet you do, but you can't. Now, if you have a BLX-R, the R for rack mount version, those do have replaceable antennas. And in that case, yes, you absolutely can. So as long as the antenna is external and is replaceable, there are some other Shure systems where the antennas are physically attached I'm trying to think PGX maybe, going back a ways here. But anyway, those antennas don't come off. So as long as the antenna comes off and you can put a different one on, yes, you can definitely do that.
Audio quality. They're asking on those in-ear monitors, how is the audio quality?
Well, again, I'm told, can't verify this first person, but I'm told that Billy Joel used these as in-ear monitors at Madison Square Garden or something. So, I mean, to me, that sounds like extraordinary, you know, and maybe it was somebody in his band or something. But the fact is, this is going to be extraordinary sound quality, not just good sound quality, but extraordinary sound quality. And I think the Sennheiser too, by the way. I've used the Sennheisers on lots of tours, you know. We're splitting hairs when we're talking about sound quality between these two. They're both really great.
Let's see. Does putting a longer antenna on a wireless unit that doesn't get a signal at a location help your chances to get a signal?
Sure. Other things that will help your chances are make sure you're operating on a clean frequency and you're not competing in the airspace. Line of sight. If your antennas can see each other, you know, that's good. Some things are invisible to RF, like glass. Now, polarized glass is not, but regular, you know, glass or most, you know, plastic, things like that. Metal is bad. Metal between your antennas is a bad thing. So, you know, but line of sight is key. And what we mean by that is, could this antenna, if it had eyes, see this antenna? You know, could they see each other? That's going to be best.
You mentioned polarized glass. So for most houses, as an example, there's low E windows, the 2-pane low E with an argon gas or something in the middle. That's the kind of glass you're talking about that could be a problem with transmitting.
Yeah, if it's got just like polarized sunglasses, you know, and part of that comes down to, you know, the way the radio wave is trying to propagate its way through. Something else that's really important, and I mentioned helicals with the IEMs, but antenna orientation. If I were to, you know, let's say I got this one going this way and this one going this way, that's going to give me the worst reception between these two, whereas both of them going like this is going to give me the best. Because this is a kind of a radial pattern coming off here, and then this one is vibrating with that same, you know, energy, and it's that, we'll call it, for lack of better technical terms, that vibration, which is what is received and tuned. So anyway, there's some fun things you can do if you have a spectrum analyzer, or an IEM system that has one built in. You know, it's a little bit harder this because this is doing not a continuous scan, right? But you know, you can actually do some things. We'll probably do that a little bit this year's Lighting and Sound Symposium, where, you know, we'll move some antennas around and show people what happens with antenna orientation and signal strength, those sorts of things, to say, look at the difference this makes.
So we've got the Audio Technica that can broadcast across this full spectrum of different frequencies. And we have the Sennheiser packs that are utilizing some of those same frequencies, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. 100%.
So is it one of those situations that if, say, someone in the room next to me has a Sennheiser pack and I'm using the Audio Technica, and could they find that same frequency and tune into my? Sure. Is that, and that would
yeah,
be
these
possible.
these aren't encrypted. These are basically just, you know, analog you know, stations. Now there are things like pilot tone and squelch and, you know, things that would maybe prevent some of that. But I think the short answer is, yeah, absolutely.
It could happen.
Totally could. Yep, totally could. If you want to send a encrypted signal, this isn't the way to do it.
Sure.
You know, there are lots of ways that we use for wireless transmission that are secure. Encryption being one, but another is to not use radio at all, and it's to use light, because the light's not leaving the room. So we use infrared, you know, and you know, when you get into like a very secure environment, corporate, military, where, you know, you just can't have that information leave the room, then we don't use RF.
Sure. Interesting. Yeah, some folks mentioned that they watched the video and they liked that the look of the pack there, and you showed it the other day. So
I'm really impressed. There's been a few things that have come out this year that have really impressed me. It's been a while since I've been really impressed by things, and it's nice. And I think we talked about this at the beginning of, you know, COVID, saying this is going to really put innovation behind, but we're going to see a lot of really cool things coming out post-COVID. And I think, you know, this is one of those things, you know, that I say, wow. And I've wondered for a long time, and I know the answer. The answer is cost. I get that. But I wondered for a long time, why do we have to buy bands? Why do I have to pick A band, G band? Why can't I just, because when our spectrum was hundreds of megahertz wide, I get that. But in today's day and world, with the way that we do these synthesized tunings, and now that our spectrum is only 130 megahertz, give it to me, give me all of it,
Yeah.
And AT answered the bell, and they said, okay. And I'm like, wow, you really did that.
Otherwise, in a situation, and we've talked about this in past microphone shows, that you would really need to kind of know where I was going to be using it, the approximate location, to be able to recommend which one would be the best fit for my usage.
I just talked to a new, not yet customer, but a new person who's come to NLFX, and said, hey, I'm having all kinds of problems with my wireless. Finally, I've tried all these different things. I spent all this money. I bought this, I bought that. Nothing has worked. I finally decided I would come to you. And I'm thinking, well, you probably should have come to me a while ago. I could have saved you a lot of money, because I'd have told you not to buy those things. That's not your problem. The problem is his wireless system exists where in his city that is all not usable. So he's going to be battling high-powered TV stations in a major metro market, and he's going to lose that battle consistently.
Sure.
And I said, there are ways with very expensive and labor-intensive work that I can do to help you find slots between TV stations and things. And I mean literally slots. They're not gaps.
Mm-hmm.
TV stations look like they're like this, but if we zoom in close enough, we can see there's a little tiny slot between them. So, I'm like, dude, you don't want to live there.
Mm-hmm.
That's not where you want to live doing wedding wireless. That's where you live when you're doing college football games, and I have to have hundreds of frequencies and I have nowhere else to go. That's not where you want to live as a wedding professional.
Sure.
You should have got a different system from day one,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have saved you from having to buy all these things day 2, 3, 4, 5. So,
which again, with that, when you have the full spectrum, that will show you where those busy areas are, and you can just kind of mosey over here.
Yeah, in one way, I think one of the greatest strengths that NLFX brings to the industry is that we care and we research these things and we try to help steer our customers out of trouble. This system, in one way, I could say, well, I don't like it because maybe they don't need us anymore. You can just buy it from anywhere and you've got the whole 130 megahertz. Now, I think we still bring an awful lot to the table in terms of our desire and our capacity to support, not to mention, our discounts. But I think that it's one of those things where it would simplify the process for a lot of customers, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Trevor had a question about the wireless frequencies that we have right now for our microphones. Do you see that shrinking again? Is that
my guy, J-Trev? My guy?
Trevor Owens there.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
All right. So do I see it shrinking more from the 130 we have?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think so. Not for a while. And by a while, I mean a long while. If you look where, cellular has gone, 5G, 10G, if you look at where they're moving, what they're doing, they're going up into, really high frequencies, 28 gigahertz or whatever. People are even starting to kind of move away from 2.4 because that got so crowded. Does 470 to 608 remain attractive? Sure. It's really viable, very good frequencies that we happen to be able to use right now,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also occupied by broadcast TV. Now, I know that as consumers, consume their media differently, meaning streaming and whatever, that maybe broadcast over-the-air TV carries less weight with the FCC, who ultimately is the gatekeeper and the decider. But I think that in order for the FCC to ask these TV stations to repack again and to, retune again and or maybe go off the air altogether, that's a really big ask.
Yeah.
That's a really, really big ask. And when you get into things like public safety, whether it be, civil defense or weather or, whatever things that free over-the-air broadcast TV gives us, I think taking that away is a really, really big hill to climb for the FCC. I don't think that that's in the conversation. And I also don't think there's the will for it. I don't think the money is there. Remember, they wanted to take away more than they did. They wanted to take away below 608. They wanted to come even into the 500s, and there just wasn't the auction money.
Sure.
And if this thing's not driven by money, then what is it driven by?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's driven by money. So, for all those reasons, well, this video might not age well. But for all those reasons, I don't think we're going to see that shrink much more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not aware of any movement right now, and we all know how fast the government moves. So, if they were talking about it today, it would probably be 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Your audio system is going to be, obsolete by the time they get around to doing it. But they're not even talking about it, to my knowledge, right now.
Excellent. Well, Ben, let's see. Wait a second. Can a person use the Vimoda headphones with that Audio-Technica kit, or do I have to use their own headset?
No, you use whatever you want.
It's just a typical 3.5 stereo.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I got headphones all over the place. I'm going to grab a pair, but yeah, just whatever. 3.5 millimeter, standard headphone jack, no problem.
Excellent. Well, wonderful, Ben. I think we're going to wrap things up because if we stay below the 50-minute mark, people like that better than if we go for the whole time. So, if people are interested in getting more information about any of the gear you've talked about tonight, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, drop us a line on our Facebook, or drop me a line personally on Facebook. Email ben@nlfxpro.com, customer care at nlfxpro.com. Call our phone number, 218-444-2994. You can Google it, whatever, but I think just, reach out whatever way is convenient for you. I did recently discover somebody had sent me a message on Instagram. I was a little embarrassed because I'm never on Instagram. So if you do that, don't expect a prompt reply. I'll get back to you in a month or two. So I need to be better about that, I think, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever way is convenient. If you go to the NLFX Pro website, there's contact forms, there's live chat. Just drop us a line, and we'll get back to you as quick as we can. If we don't, please hit us up again, and make sure we get to you, get you the information you need, get you some great savings, and get you a new wireless speaker system.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for being with tonight. Up next is the Tuesday Night Music Show. Jay and Brian and John and Howie and our folks jumping in and such. Go to DJNTV.com/chill, and you can join in with the talk of any number of musical topics. The guys hit a lot of different things on Tuesday, so you guys will have some fun with that. And we'll be back again next week with our next Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Ben, thanks a lot.